All right.
We welcome you back to a final segment of On Cue. Rich Canoes here. Lloyd Vance, our NFL Insider 1029, the game host of Lloyd Vance's Insider Football. We're powered by our good friends over at Play It Again Sports, 1450 Clements Bridge Road in Deptford, New Jersey. All right, as we close things out, Russell Wilson, perhaps going down as one of the worst trades of all time. Denver told Russell Wilson, they informed him that he will be cut, he will be released. The numbers we'll get into in a moment, but I think I called this last year. He was big time cooked, and it's amazing. He got a Hall of Fame quarterback. You just knew, and it went south once Sean Payton made a comment about where Russell Wilson was parking his car. Once I heard that, I realized that the end was near. And the numbers are just absolutely staggering. First, we'll get to it in a second, but your initial thoughts on Denver um, going in another direction.
Yeah, Q, I heard from a source early last season that Sean Payton he basically did not like Russell Wilson. They were not on the same page, and it kind of played out on the sidelines. You saw a couple games where kind of jawing at each other, and maybe Russ was changing plays and wasn't running the offense the way that Sean Payton had desired. He did not endear himself to Payton. Obviously, Sean Payton inherited him,
Yep.
and they're going to have to figure this thing out. But as you said, a lot of money that's going to be dead cap money for the Denver Broncos. Uh, the Broncos have to figure out. They do have the 12th pick now. They have their own pick. They're going to have to figure out how they're going to move in a new direction. But that's going to be an albatross in terms of building their overall roster because they're not going to be able to sign a lot of players, and it's an ugly divorce basically. And we'll see where Russell ends up.
How much of this do we also put on ownership GM group? Because they did hire Nathaniel Hackett. They took the ball out of Russell Wilson's hands 2 seasons ago, going for a long field goal instead of giving him the ball 4th and 3 to open things up. And I forget who it was. I forget who the game was against, but it was the first week of the season. Kind of set the tone. Hackett, it doesn't. It's a bad. It's just a bad move, right, to hire him. And then you see what happens in Denver. I mean, look, do you believe that it's not entirely on Russell Wilson and it's hard for him to succeed? First year head coach, different offense, then go to another offense with a veteran head coach and Sean Payton, who is looking for more of a quarterback of the Drew Brees' ilk that's going to stand in the pocket and throw. So where is it all on Russ? Is it also on the failures of the Denver Broncos organization?
No, I would say this is a whole organizational breakdown. And the Walton Penner Group, obviously, they bought the team and they want to move it in a new direction. But they were stuck with them. But that contract was there. They inherited it. And I would have thought a veteran coach like Sean Payton and Russell Wilson would have worked this out. They would have gotten on the same page. The team actually wasn't played pretty well considering
Right.
the roster and they had a lot of injuries and things that they were working through. But it just seemed like they just could not get together in terms of the playbook and the plays they're calling. And Russell Wilson's not the same player he was in Seattle. We saw that his last season in Seattle, just not as dynamic. He struggled his first season with the Broncos. And you're saying, okay, maybe it was Hackett. They jettisoned him. But, they each have a hand in this. And he'll get his opportunities to play someplace else. But he played better than some people criticized him for, but he also came up short in some games and some
You still think he's a
situations.
starter? You still think he's a starter in this league by default?
I definitely do. In a league where Gardner Minshew was able to start some games and Jimmy G, guys like that, it still have had chances to start. I think he gets his opportunity. It may be someplace like Pittsburgh because you have Kenny Pickett there, who was considerably underachieved, another first round draft pick that we talked about, those bonus babies that just can be coach killers. He's
Yeah.
just not getting it done in terms of he can't even throw for 20 touchdowns in the season. So, you bring a guy like Russell Wilson in there and it's more conservative offense. And then you go play action down the field, kind of like that old Seattle playbook that he did so well in. So I could see him getting his opportunities there. Obviously, we talked about earlier the Atlanta Falcons. They're going to have a new quarterback because Desmond Ritter is not their guy, but I'm not sure if that's the spot for him. But yeah, Q, to answer your question, I do think he's going to go into training camp and have the opportunity to start somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'd have to go back and look at pretty much every snap that he took past season, pretty much kind of looking like an all 22. But the thing that, man, this is a monumental mistake here. I mean, you can't sugarcoat this. When you think about what was given up, I mean, the numbers alone are just ridiculous. So you're going to part ways with the highest paid signal caller. Denver's going to eat 39 million. They're going to avoid a 37 million guaranteed trigger for 2025 that would have taken effect this month. But they're going to take on 85 million in total dead salary cap over the next 2 years by releasing him, which by definition is the largest dead cap hit in NFL history. That tells me that this also arguably is one of the worst trades in NFL history. And I mean, look, to your point, in fairness, he didn't play particularly poorly last season. But again, man, you ain't this guy 5 years, 242 million.
No,
And already, I mean, by the way, this is not shocking because when they told him they were going to deactivate him or have him as backup towards the end of the season, you kind of knew because they didn't want him to get hurt and have to worry about insurance and pay off if he got injured. But I mean, so under Hackett, who was fired after a 4-11 start, Peyton comes in and Russell Wilson played 30 games under center for the Broncos, 11-19 record, completed 63% of his passes, 6,600 yards, 42 touchdowns, 19 interceptions. Those are Daniel Jones-ish type of numbers. You're talking a Hall of Fame quarterback in Russell Wilson, and they had one of the worst offenses overall. In fact, you know what? I shouldn't give Daniel Jones that much credit. But yeah, I mean, is it he's just getting old? The offensive line, seeing ghosts, the play calling, the offense, the scheme. How has he regressed? It was different. Carson Wentz dealt with all those injuries, and Russell Wilson was a high caliber, exceptional talent at the quarterback position, MVP. You're talking, Hall of Fame quarterback, and he's just regressed over the last several years.
Yeah, Kim, and you're going to get in Denver. They're going to point fingers at John Elway, who's run a team before, now George Payton, who's the GM, and they're all asking that same question as Wilson's leaving the door. And I think a big thing, Q, is uh, he was always able to move and make plays with his legs. And I think he's getting older now, and he's not running with that reckless abandon
Yep.
like he did for so many years in Seattle, just moving the chains and sliding around in pocket. Now, obviously, Denver Broncos, another team that's always had an ongoing offensive line issues, where Lloyd Cushenberry, their center, and some of the other guys did not have the best protection for Russell Wilson. But he's just not the same guy. And people kind of, it's tough for an athlete to look in the mirror and say, okay, at this stage in my career, this is who I am. And Denver, unfortunately, that old regime with Nathaniel Hackett and them, they thought he was still the same guy. And that was a king's ransom, as you said, that they traded to Seattle. And Seattle's going to benefit from that for years to come. But, Denver thought they had their guy with Russell Wilson, and they were greatly wrong.
Yeah. By the way, Giants, it's reported by Rappaport and Mike Garafolo, they won't use a tag on Xavier McKinney, so he's going to hit free agency. We'll get into this later in the week because this is just going to give me a headache with the nonsense that the Giants are doing and not doing. And then later in the week, I want to also kind of recap what transpired with the NFL Combine. And we also have to start looking ahead to these divisions. We already went through the offseason needs of the NFC East. We'll take a look at the NFC North as well. That'll be on BYP and on Q as well. But Lloyd, everyone can follow him on Twitter at Lloyd Vance, host of Lloyd Vance's Insider Football 1029 The Game, part of the Broad Street South Network. Always appreciate a couple moments, pal. Thank you.
All right, Q. Thanks for having me on.